everyone, and welcome back to my channel. In this video I'm going to be reviewing this book here called Autism Anxiety and Me, a diary in even numbers by Emma Louise Bridge. Hope you can see that. On the back of the book it says, in her 24 years Emma has experienced a lot, and much of this has been coloured by her autism and social anxiety. Funny and self-aware, Emma's diary entries capture her hidden thoughts and insightful explanations as to why the world can be such a puzzling place. Emma Louise Bridge was born in Cambridgeshire and now lives in Cheltenham, UK. Following her passion for writing, she has published 2 children's books and is currently working on a novel based on ancient Norse mythology. Emma was diagnosed with autism aged 23, which helped to explain a lot of her childhood experiences. Excuse me. I read this book, as I said, I read this book a couple of months ago, just because, you know, I like reading about other people's experiences of autism, and it's a very straightforward, easy book to read. The chapters are very short, and you know it's not at all demanding, this book. I also like the way when you look at the book, it actually does look like a diary. I think the cover's pretty cool. When Emma actually put her diary together, she didn't originally intend to publish it, so it's quite, you know, it's quite unfiltered. Yeah, so like me, she received a late diagnosis. I was diagnosed at age 21, so she was only and Emma was diagnosed at age 23, so it's sort of similar, you know, both like me, diagnosed in adulthood. But so she wrote the book age 24, and her sister is actually also autistic, which is quite interesting, particularly as, like, you know, girls are often considered to be sort of underdiagnosed. That's quite interesting. That both her and her sister are autistic, and both of them received late diagnoses. I think her sister was diagnosed when she was 19. As I say, the chapter's very easy to read. At the end of each chapter, her mother provides a commentary which elaborates on some of the issues that Emma touches on in her diary entry. The entries are in even numbers because Emma has a particular interest in even numbers and finds odd numbers anxiety-provoking. So that's why it's a diary in even numbers. So yeah, so all of it's in even numbers. I made a particular note of the areas that I could relate to the most. On page 15, Emma says that she feels a lot younger than her years. As she puts it, I think my brain has not yet caught up with my numerical age. Plus I look quite young, I have been told. I feel the same, because despite being 32 years old, I feel about 13 years old, and I also have been told by many people that I look a lot younger than my years. I mean, for me, it's kind of, I think I'd imagine, you know, maybe if I wasn't autistic, I might still look younger for my years, just because I'm naturally small and there's not much I could do about that. You know, I'm just small and slim, and people often associate being small and slim with, like, being younger. So yeah, I do look younger than my years by, you know, many people think I'm still, like, at college or something. When I tell them my real age, that I'm 32, believe it or not, people kind of give me a raised eyebrow often. But I suspect also that maybe being autistic as well can maybe make you come across a bit younger as well, possibly. I don't know. I mean, I certainly don't feel my age, but I don't know, what are you supposed to feel like when you're my age? You know, I don't know, but I guess I just don't, you know, I can't relate to, like, serious adult life, whatever that is. So yeah, so let me know what you think about that. In the first chapter, Emma describes doing gardening for a neighbour, deadheading flowers, but the instructions she was given were not precise, which left her feeling very anxious. She was not told the right measurements, so she was not sure how much to cut. On page 20, her mother notes that Emma cut too much off because she took the instructions very literally, as in deadhead. You know, if you think, like, deadhead, it does sound like, you know, literally cutting off a complete head sort of thing. So Emma then compensated by cutting too little off for next batch because she wasn't sure exactly what she was supposed to do, and that caused her a lot of anxiety. And this I could really relate to a lot. It's really familiar with me. I mean, I have been in many situations like this, similar to this, in the past, particularly when I was at school or around other people where, you know, they're giving instructions, and also like previous voluntary work as well. It's really awkward, it's really embarrassing, can make you feel like really stupid, it affects your self-esteem, you know, like when you're constantly feeling that you can't follow instructions properly, you're getting things wrong, you're at risk of being not necessarily shouted at. I mean, nice people try not to shout at you, but, you know, they still, like, are obviously critical, and that kind of isn't, you know, you do sort of, they lose patience. Yeah, so, I mean, instructions can be very ambiguous, and Emma's mum says that people should, particularly for autistic people, but obviously this is good for anyone anyway, regardless of whether or not they're autistic, it's just good practice, is that people should really spell out the instructions very clearly and demonstrate precisely what is needed, so there's no room for misinterpretation, ideally demonstrating as well. And often it's, you know, demonstrating how the task is supposed to be completed, but often this needs to be done several times before it actually sinks in. I know when I used to do my voluntary work, like particularly in charity shops, often like I was told how to do something, but I sometimes still got it wrong. And yeah, you sometimes do need to be sure. I will get it eventually, you know. It's not like you don't get it at all. It's just like people have to be more patient and have to go through it to you a bit more before it sinks in. And some people just aren't prepared to do that, and they lose patience really easily, which I think part of the reason why autistic people can often end up with like very low confidence. Yeah, and you just sort of feel, well, this is how people are going to be, I'm just not going to bother with people anymore because they're just too hard work. So yeah, it does make you feel like have a sense of failure, I think, because of it's not understanding instructions, so I can relate to that very much. Further examples of literalness are given on page 26. Emma has to follow instructions exactly. For example, her body soap says to soak for 10 to 20 minutes, so Emma will soak for that amount of time. So I do have this tendency, but I am definitely not as bad as I used to be. I think as you grow up, you know, you do develop a bit, you do learn not to take things quite as literally, you know, you start to become a bit more you know, a bit more, yeah, you just develop your common sense a bit more, I guess, with age. But I still do fall for this, you know, now and again. I think, you know, I'm always going to be prone, as it were, to taking things literally. And also, of course, like, for example, you know, like instructions on, you know, like cooking instructions and things like that. I do like to follow them to the letter, where someone else might be a bit more like, you know, maybe a bit more flexible. But I am getting better at this, as I say. I am getting a lot better at this. I'm nowhere near as bad as I used to be, but I can definitely relate to what Emma says there, because I've had experiences of that myself. So it is still an ongoing challenge though. I might do another video maybe about literality and other tongues, so I haven't really talked about it too much, and I can't really go into it too much now. But yeah, it does result in a lot of confusion and anxiety. On page 29, Emma discusses her many troubles. Like me, Emma is horrendously bad at maths, there goes the stereotype, and understanding numbers, and also like me, she is stressed about spending money. Yeah, well, I've had this problem. I mean, there was a point when I actually hardly spent any money at all. My mum was like, this was like when I was first getting like my own money to spend, so sort of like late teens, early 20s. My mum was like, you can go and spend more money than this, and I was like really worried because I didn't have that understanding about how much to spend. So my kind of like way of coping was just hardly not to spend any. I'm not like that anymore. I spend money quite liberally now on myself and stuff, but I am still quite kind of maybe a little bit more I am careful with money. I mean, it's good to be careful with money, but I also worry a lot about it as well, because I don't really understand money, because I really do struggle with money a lot. I struggle with maths, so that can lead to a lot of anxiety around money and things like that. Some people go the other way and spend too much money. It could be either one of two extremes often, because yeah, if you struggle with maths and number, it can be quite hard. You often need other people to guide you so that you can find some kind of middle ground. As her mum notes on page 31, as adults we have to make our own choices about what to buy, how much you spend, what is essential, and this can cause a lot of stress for some autistic people, particularly if you have dyscalculia as well. On page 37, Emma describes the all too familiar experience of being in situations where everyone laughs and you have no idea what is funny. Now, this has happened to me too many times to count. And yeah, it does make you feel quite lonely and alienated. Like everyone else laughing, you're like, what's so funny? I mean, it's not like you don't have a sense of humour or anything. I think people misinterpret this as you're not having a sense of humour. Of course you have a sense of humour. It's just that, like, whatever they're talking about is just not funny. And often, like, maybe autistics often have quite idiosyncratic sense of humour, maybe. I mean, as I say, I do have a strong sense of humour, but I've noticed that it's often not shared by other people. I mean, my sense of humour is quite dark, sort of gallows humour, and also quite sort of like potty humour, South Park type, you know, a little bit dirty maybe. Sometimes people might think it's a little bit immature, but that's what makes me laugh, so, you know. Slapstick humour. Many people think, as I say, yeah, so many people seem to find my sense of humour immature, so it works, you know, it works both ways. I don't understand their sense of humour, I often don't understand my sense of humour, but I guess it's about finding people who do share your sense of humour. So, yes, what are your thoughts? So I'm going to move on to video number 2 now to continue this overview. So moving on to part 2 now.